All right, welcome back. If you missed part one, I will put that link up there somewhere. To take you there to part one of my horror story within the horror stories, aka the time that me and an entire table imploded and just about left a Curse of Strahd campaign, giving the metaphorical middle finger to our DM and never looking back. Um, Last part, all right, I introduced our cast, along with going through Death House and the absolute misery that was. Today I'm going to go through the rest of it. All right, so Death House is checked off. Going on over here to my next picture, right, we got a couple of zombies coming out of the ground. Yes, that choice is made with a purpose. Not too hard. All right, so to kind of continue on the story here, not too far away from Death House, so like literally the very next session, basically. We had stumbled upon Irina and Ismark, right, two characters who anyone who has played Curse of Strahd, you are well aware of who they are. We have stumbled upon them. We have figured out that Irina is someone very, very important, and she needs to be protected. She needs to be, taken out of Barovia and found someplace safe to go to, to go to. And so we take her out, and we are walking towards Vallaki. We're out on the roads heading towards Vallaki, and our party, having realized that okay, if this Irina is so important, we probably shouldn't rest in town. So we're going to make up camp outside as much as we can. And so we end up, spending our first night outside in the woods. And as we're setting up camp, our paladin Alvin, who has kind of taken it upon himself to really make sure that we never get near death like we did at Death House, he decides to say, "Hey, Mr. DM, I have this ability called Divine Sense, and I just want to know, do I sense anything bad, nefarious, undead, fiendish, any bad creature in the area as we set up camp here? I just want to make sure we're setting up camp in a good spot." To which the DM replies, "Nope, absolutely, and you sense nothing. Like you feel like this is a safe campsite." So we set up our little camp. We go to bed. Previously that day, we had run into a couple of bandits, and so we had used some of our resources, but nothing too extravagant. We get about an hour into our long rest, which basically just means far enough in that we were asleep so that the enemy could surprise us, but not far enough in to actually get any of our shit back. When all of a sudden we heard rumbling and the tearing of dirt and moss and root around us, and we found ourselves suddenly surrounded by 15 zombies. A group of third-party adventurers surrounded by fucking zombies. Okay? If you put that in any combat encounter calculator on any website, do you know what the result is for that? Death. Triple deadly. Like, action economy alone is like, yeah, if you put 15 zombies up against a group of 4 third-party adventurers, it don't matter what they're especially if they're missing some resources, like they are 100% doomed to fail here. You will have death. You will have characters die in this next encounter, guaranteed. But that's where we suddenly found ourselves. Never mind the fact that our paladin had even tried to go out of his way to Divine Sense, and for some reason missed the 15 mass grave that we were, sleeping on top of. So we end up fighting these 15 zombies, getting absolutely wrecked and almost dying. But thankfully, thank God, that there was an NPC who could attack 3 times with a +1 sword that was 1d10 plus like 4 something damage, had an AC that the zombies could never hit, and no matter how much damage he took, he just never failed. He never fell in battle. Ismark single-handedly took down like 8 of the 15 zombies, as the rest of us could barely take down the other 7. Because, action economy. Turn 1, I believe Theodore, I believe our ranger, I think he was immediately taken out. followed very quickly behind by our monk, Simon, and then the paladin, and then myself. Or maybe I think then myself and then the paladin. I think Alvin may have been the last one to go down there. Now, if that wasn't enough, okay, if that alone sounds shitty to you, I'm afraid that it gets just a little bit worse, because you see, there was something that had been going on in Death House. Something that had happened when we were fighting that flesh mound, along with the ghouls and things, that I noticed but didn't want to say. Because it's something that I never want to accuse a DM of. Because at the end of the day, you know, players are players, DMs are DMs. You know, if you don't know it, don't, you know, there's no use, you know, raising a stink about it. But I couldn't help but notice that little DM sent to the back of my head that went, okay, I know the plus bonus of a zombie. I just do. I'm a DM. I've used zombies in a lot of different campaigns as basic undead creatures. I know what their to hit bonus is. So I know that if we have a paladin like Alvin, who had Shield of Faith on himself, combined with his shield, combined with all of his things, made his AC, like, I think he had like an AC of like 19 going into this fight. I know the odds statistically of how often he should be getting hit, roughly. And I noticed that those numbers weren't adding up. So what I did is I took a piece of paper, and the last like 7 hits that were done in the combat, because that's how long it took for me to kind of register and get every, you know, and start writing things down. I noticed a coincidental connection between my healing, the ACs of our players, and how hard and often the enemies hit us. Here's how the paper would go. I would, on my turn, heal someone. Maybe that heal was, you know, minimal damage. Second turn, it would be a very good amount of healing, maybe even max healing. Third turn, I wouldn't heal. Fourth turn, I wouldn't heal. Fifth turn, I would heal max damage. Okay. Now let's see what the zombies do. First round, they hit with a 19. They meet the AC of the paladin, and he takes average damage. Second turn, he crits. The zombie crits on the paladin, and he does almost max damage. Third, he misses. Fourth, he misses. Fifth attack, he crits again and does almost max damage. Do you see the pattern here? Because I did. Every time I healed, the zombies would hit. Every time I healed max or got a lot of healing in, the zombies would crit. And what's so interesting is that the zombies always seem to hit in the ratio relative to the player's AC. Here's what I mean by that. When the zombies were attacking me, if they missed, they'd miss by 1 or 2. And if they hit me, they either met my AC or they went up by 1 or 2. So, you know, my AC at this time, I think, was like 14. So on average, the zombies were rolling anywhere between about 12 to 17 on average. But on our paladin friend, they were rolling anywhere between about 17 to 21 on average. It's as if the rolls just coincided with the AC of whoever the fuck they were hitting. Oh, and I guess I should also mention this. Although we were constrained, we were forced to use Roll20 to roll our dice and damage and things like that. Our DM, he rolled at his house and then would tell us the number that he rolled, because there are just some instances that we shouldn't know what the roll was. Now, thankfully, thanks to Easemark's immortality, apparently, we ended up not dying in this camp, you know, in this session. But when it was over and the DM left, it was, I believe it was Theodore, I believe it was our ranger, who said, "Hey, TLC, can I ask a quick question?" I said, "Yeah." He said, I read a little bit through, because I thought about being a cleric myself. I didn't read anywhere. Is there a thing where if you heal someone that the monsters have advantage, that they have a bonus of some kind to hit that target on their turn? And I said, no, Theodore, that's not, that doesn't exist. At which point, then both Alvin and Simon said, yeah, we thought the same thing. It was like every time you healed us, it was like you just put a target on our back and you made it so that like the next turn we were almost guaranteed to get critted on. And I said, yeah, guys, I'm going to be honest. I have the last like 7 rounds of attacks here versus how much I was healing. Which, by the way, fun fact, by the end of this round, I ended up healing over 100 points of damage. At 3rd level, I had healed over 100 points of damage in that one combat. And yet we had still all at one point been unconscious. Because every time I healed max, we got critted on. And every time I rolled minimum, they would hit, but just a little bit less. Needless to say, this encounter combined with Death House had now begun to really make me start to be wary of the DM and his roles. But for how bad this is, it still wasn't enough in our minds to warrant getting out of this campaign. But I'm only 2 pictures in my 4-picture story. We still have 2 more stories to tell. And it gets worse really quickly. Moving into picture number 3. So we make it to Vallaki. We do a couple of like little side missions. You know, we find out that something had happened at the church, and we figure that stuff out, and blah blah blah, yada yada yada. We end up going and taking part in a little bit of a side quest. The father of the church, the pastor, said that there was something going on at the orphanage here in Vallaki, and he wanted us to investigate and find out what was going on. And so we go to this orphanage, which, oh, and by the way, I guess I should mention this. This is not in the ordinary module. This is something that you can purchase, because I did research after we left this campaign, because I was like, this seemed too well made. Like there were maps and items and things like that, and so I was like, I would love to trust that this DM did it himself, but I had the oddest feeling that he wasn't. And I ended up finding a PDF that I could purchase to install things into my game. So it turns out he must just have that and was using it. But anyway, I digress. So we go to this orphanage and we begin investigating it. And we spend maybe about an hour or so investigating the orphanage and discover that it is under the horrific fate of being the playground for a demonic possession. All right, a demon has possessed someone here in the house, here in the orphanage, and it is causing other people here to get sick, to kind of go a little crazy, and the ones that are sick look as if like death is right around the corner here. And so we know that if we don't find a solution to this, like kids are going to start dying, and we can't have that. So we start looking around. And eventually we find this, we discover, we figure out that there is a boy up in the attic, and he is the source of this affliction, of this possession. And we spend the next, it had to have been 45 minutes trying everything we could think of. Like, we knew it was this kid that was the one that was possessed. Nothing else made sense. So we tried talking to this kid. We tried talking to the demon. We tried pissing off the demon. We tried, praying for him, with him. We tried bringing him outside into the sunlight. We tried, splashing holy water. One of us ran out to the temple, paid an exuberant fee of like 50 gold pieces, which was like all the gold we had as a party, to get a vial of holy water, and blessed him and threw it onto his face, only for the DM to describe as the holy water ran down, and the kid looked at us and went, "Why would you do that? Why am I wet now?" And just everything we possibly could. After about 45 minutes, almost an hour, so we've now been playing this game for almost 2 hours, a session for almost 2 hours, we're kind of fed up. And we're fed up not because things are failing. We're fed up because things are failing and we're getting absolutely no direction from the DM. DMs, if you're watching this, if your players try, like if the players have figured out where they needed to go or who they need to talk to, but you keep putting roadblocks because you think that it happened too quickly, go fuck yourself. All right, if your players have figured out, if you put a possessed person in your game, the players have figured out who it is and they are doing everything they can. They are casting protection against good and evil. They are putting holy water, oil, they're praying with them. They're putting their holy symbols on the foreheads of this NPC, of this person, this possessed victim. If all you do is describe how nothing happens, the water runs down their face, they look at you annoyed that you keep praying at them and nothing changes. If you allow that to happen, I'm sorry, but that is horrible DMing. All right, let this be a wake-up call, because you could hear it in our voices. Our characters weren't the ones frustrated anymore. We were. And it ended up getting to the point to where we actually, we dropped whatever pathetic attempt of voices that we had on it, and we literally said, fine, fuck it, we're done, we're walking out, leave this possessed kid. We're gonna we're just gonna go back to the church, we're gonna tell the father what we found. All right, he can come here and he can deal with it, because we're done. We've wasted 50 gold pieces and an entire afternoon, an entire session doing nothing. We're done. We're walking out. That's when all of a sudden the cabinet, the hatch door that separates the attic from the rest of the house slams shut magically, where a film of energy suddenly wraps around the windows of the attic, darkening the space. And that's when a dark shadow pours out of the neck of the child and looks at us and gets in a surprise attack on us. He got a surprise round. I don't know which one pissed me off more. The fact that the DM made it sound as if we didn't know that the demon was going to do this, or the fact that it took us just going, fine, fuck it, DM, you made something we physically can't pass anymore because you're not giving us enough information, enough lead, so we're just leaving. And that's what initiated his reaction. I don't know which was worse. Sadly, it doesn't get any better. So we start fighting this demon. Now, the demon had this wonderful knack for popping out of the child, attacking us, using an attack that healed half of the damage it dealt, which, by the way, he hit like a goddamn train. I think he was doing like 3 or 4 d6 plus something damage to level 4 parties. And it had a plus. It was like 4d6 plus like 4. And would heal by half. And then at the end of the turn, the demon would turn right back around and would go back into the kid. So we spend a couple of rounds trying to find a way to attack this demon only as it pops out of the kid, only to discover that none of it worked. It turns out the demon was resistant to non-magical damage, which was what most of us were using, most of our melee classes and ranger was using. So the demon was basically taking no damage, and whatever damage it did take, it would just heal on the next siphoning claw, whatever attack it had. It got to the point to where one of our party members went down, and all the 3 of us are getting heavily wounded before we said, okay, we have to change up plans. We're not going to win this thing. We keep sitting here trying to attack it only when it's coming out, and it's just not working. So we do the unthinkable. Trigger warning, I suppose, if there ever is one. We kill the kid. We had to. We had no other choice. We tried everything. We even tried asking the DM, hey, what do our characters know? I am a cleric. Hey, DM, what do I know about possession, and how do we get a demon out of a person so we can attack it? To which the DM replied, you know nothing. You've never faced a demon. You don't know. With no other choice, and looking as if we're about to get TPK'd For a third time, we do the unthinkable and we kill the kid. We had to. We felt like we had no other choice. Now, you would think that that would end the possession, right? And the demon would now be out. But you're wrong, because you know what demons get to do if they no longer have a victim, if their previous victim of possession dies? They just go into the next person. So they did. They just jumped right on into the next, into the fighter. Take it back. Theodore was not a ranger. Now I'm remembering. Theodore was a fighter. So he just goes right into the fighter. Goes right into Theodore. And now, whenever we try to attack him, now Theodore takes the damage instead and begins failing death saves because we're hitting his unconscious body. To skip ahead here, because again, I could keep going into this, and I'm getting fucking pissed the more I'm thinking about it, because I'm remembering the more and more shitty parts as I go. But to bypass and to make it so that this video isn't too damn long, long story short, our monk goes unconscious. Theodore is possessed and at 0 hit points for sake of brevity. Our paladin, Alvin, he just goes down. So it's just me. Because again, I'm the healer. I'm the one that's kind of stayed the distance. I've been able to kind of keep out of the way. So I'm the last one alive. So I run to the window and I cast Misty Step once again to try and get the fuck out of the house. To which the DM describes that magical film that dimmed the lights in the attic also created an impenetrable barrier that I could not escape from. So, with no other choice, and with nothing else feeling like I could really do, I described how my character turned around, walked back up towards Theodore and this, demonic shadow figure behind him, got on his knees, looked up and said, "Fucking kill me." And that was both the character and the player saying those words. The table kind of got a little quiet. The DM kind of laughed, thinking I was a joke. And I said, no. I said, kill me. I'm fucking done. I said, you have made this encounter in a way that we had to kill a kid in order to do anything, which I'm not very happy about. You've locked us into a room again that you've made it very blatantly clear that we can't get out. We've done everything we could to exorcise this demon and make it, its own entity that we could fight, and nothing worked. You gave it an attack that heals itself every time it hits. So any damage, and I now I'm remembering this as well. By this point, I'd used all my spells, so all I had left was cantrips because I'd used all my spells to heal. This creature was doing an average of like 18 to 20 something points of damage, so it was healing 9 to 10 points a turn, using its strike. And I said, all I have is Sacred Flame. The only cantrip I have is Sacred Flame, and the best it does is D8. I said, I physically will never out damage this monster. And it's at that point that the DM starts to get agitated. He starts getting annoyed with me and how I'm talking. And so he stops the kind of, distant, like, oh, haha, like, oh, we're still having fun. And he said, hey, you're just not trying hard enough. You guys weren't very creative. You just came at it head on, and now you're getting punished for it. I had had enough, and I just said, then kill me. I said, oh, we're already dead, so just fucking kill me. I end my turn. My turn's over. I'm on my knees. I'm looking up at the demon, and I'm waiting for death. I don't care. Just kill me. And I will admit that is maybe not the best course of action, that I should have been more respectful about it, but that's how I felt at that time. To which then, at the top of the round, demon's turn, because everybody else is unconscious, the DM describes how the demon lets loose a loud shrieking scream and dissipates into shadow. He then describes that somewhere here in the orphanage is a stopwatch that ticks down, and as soon as the demon reveals itself, it has like 5 rounds, 8 rounds, however many fucking numbers are on the stopwatch. And as soon as it dropped as soon as it reached midnight, as soon as it went to 12 on the stopwatch, then the demon would vanish. And if you guys had only found that stopwatch, and if you had only thought of moving the minute hand to the 12, he would have dissipated at the end of one round. But you guys didn't think that far because you weren't that creative. The session ended very quickly after that, and it was at that point that I told the players, I said, guys, I'm about ready to leave. I said, I love you. You guys are awesome. I am so fortunate to have found players like you. But I said, but if I have another session like this one, I'm out. I'm done. Thankfully, they cooled me off enough. We kept playing. But this is number 3. We got one more story to go, and we have kind of a little sidetrack to make before we get there. So we're not done just yet. Still got a little bit more of the story to tell. Okay. So, demon has been dispatched. We leave the orphanage. We go back to the father, to the priest, and tell him that, hey, we found out what happened. There was a casualty. A child was killed in the attack. To which point the father said, "Oh, absolutely! Like we gotta go. We have to bless the house and make sure that demon never reforms himself." So we begin to head back. As we get back to where this demon has to the orphanage, we meet guards halfway. It turns out that after all the ruckus we had caused in the attack of this demon, when we left, the orphanage owner, the matron of the orphanage, had walked up to the attic and saw the dead kid and had decided to call the guards and say that, hey, this group of adventurers walked up there and killed little Billy here in the attic. Now, we, of course, tried to tell them what had happened, and we said that, hey, go ask the matron of the orphanage. Like, there are sigils and runes and kids who aren't feeling well. Like, there's proof there in the orphanage that proves that this was, not our work, that he was at the wrong place at the wrong time, that he was a victim of this situation. We didn't mean to kill him. We didn't want to kill him, but we had no other choice. To which the guard said, haha, yeah, right. You're fucking coming with us. And so we get taken into prison. Now, through some very great RPing, one of our party members managed to convince the guards that 2 of them were innocent. But there were 2 of us that apparently, because guards have the ability to just magically know what kills the kid, 2 of us could not be proven innocent as easily. And so I decided to take it upon myself, because I was the one who had kind of gotten pissed off the session before, and because I felt kind of, and I felt bad for that. I felt responsible for that. I convinced the guards that it was on me, all right, that I was the one that killed the kid, all right, and I was so bad, I was so sorry that it happened, but that I killed the kid. And I thought one of 2 things is going to happen. Either one, I'm going to get punished for something. I'm going to have to do something to make up for my crime. And then, we get to continue on our way. Or 2, I'm going to be going to prison, in which case I'll be making a new character and being introduced to the party coming up. Either one I was okay with. Once again, the DM decides to circumvent all of our expectations. He has my hands chopped off. I'm a cleric. I'm a spellcaster. Do you know what you need to have? Rules is written anyway. Do you know what you need to have in order to cast most of your spells? You need somatic components. You need the ability to move things, move your hands. Now, I'll be honest, when this happened, I immediately asked the DM, I said, hey, DM, I don't have hands. How does that work with my somatic components? Am I able to do the whole, Doctor Strange used my amputated wrist, to do something, or am I just fucked? To which point he said, well, for now, whatever spells that don't require somatic components are the only spells you can cast. Do you know how many cleric spells don't require somatic components? I think like 1. If that. So I told the players, I said, yeah, guys, you need to take me out to pasture and let me go. I said, there's no point in doing this. My character might as well be dead, because all I am is dead weight at this point. So I became suicidal, basically. My character, threw himself into whatever dangerous situation to try and off himself because literally it's all I could do. To which point, then the DM somehow seemed to always come up with a reason as to why my character could never die in whatever circumstance happened. However, I will say the story has a interesting ending because we end up finding a church, an abbey that is ran by some weird mad scientist guy who grafts a tiger paw and a lobster claw on my wrist, and that allows me to cast my spells again. It was kind of a running gag for the next couple of weeks that I was running around with a lobster claw in our sessions, but at least I could cast spells, so at least I had that going for me. And thus brings me here to our final part, or at our final picture and the end of our tale. After my newly reformed hands, grafted hands have been installed, we take a job that requires us to go to the Wizards of Wines and figure out what is going on there, and to allow a group of people to regain this place. We discover it's filled with druids and twig blights and the like, and that we need to get in there and find out what is going on, what is happening, and try and solve the problem as much as we could. We slog through multiple combat encounters just to get to the building. We investigate and kill a couple, probably about 4 or 5 druids by the time we get to this long hallway where our fighter describes how he would like to open up the last door of this hallway. So he opens it, rolls a stealth check that wasn't horrible. It wasn't the best, but it wasn't horrible. It was like a 13, 14. And the DM described as how when the fighter opened the door, this group of 3 druids in the room immediately turned to us, hearing the door opening, and immediately blasts the door and all of us right outside of it, basically, with a cone of cold, as another one does some kind of lightning spell, and I forget which one. Within 2 attacks, we're all unconscious. Literally, we open the door, it's like 2, maybe 3 rounds of combat, we are all unconscious. To which point then the DM says, yeah, and these guys, they wouldn't leave your bodies here. They know about Barovia. They know that death, is never, the end. So I'm sorry, but I think that they would kill your body. They would make sure they would, cut your bodies up. They would make sure that, this is all ending for you. I'm real sorry, guys, but we got TPK'd. I know, super anticlimactic, right? I take 10 minutes on almost each one of these other fucking pictures, and for the druid, I only take, 2 minutes. But that's because that's exactly how it felt. This whole campaign, this whole thing was nothing more than a constant stream of DM putting us into situations that we could not win. We use everything we have, every ability, every short rest related ability, every high level spell slot to just finally start getting above, the shittiness that we have found ourselves in. And then all of a sudden the rolls start to change. All of a sudden the monsters never miss. All of a sudden the saving throws are never failed by the enemies. But we still are. We're failing. We're missing. And so it's like this bell curve where we start off in the shittiness. We just we go Nova because we have to. We use everything we have at our disposal, all of our resources to finally reach, to get over that curve, and thinking that, we're finally up here now. All right, we're doing it. We are killing our enemies. We're making up ground. We're doing okay. And then all of a sudden, does a 23 hit? Duh. Does a 21 hit? Does a 26 hit? Does a 19 hit? Does a 31 fucking hit? Oh, look, this horde of zombies, every single one of them succeeds in their dexterity saving throw. None of them take damage. And then we're right back into the shitstorm. But hey, don't worry though, because we have an NPC that's immortal and is going to show up and is going to save the day. That was the story of this campaign. Until eventually it ended in a very anticlimactic fashion. Literally, one of us opens the door and we die within 12 seconds. That was our experience here in the Curse of Strahd module. Those are just bits and pieces. Those are just some of the ones that I remember the most. And I'm like, yeah, these were shitty, things that happened here. So where does that leave us? Well, I hope it leaves some impression of entertainment, if you care to listen to it. Secondly, if you are a DM and any of these things are things that you have found yourself upon some reflection that you do, such as, making it so that you set DCs to something that are just stupid high, that you are, with punishments that just don't fit what they are meant to do, then consider maybe changing that a little bit. Figure out, what is your party comprised of? If your party's comprised of a whole bunch of people without dexterity saving throws, maybe having a house full of swirling blades that require a DC 17 dex save, maybe that's not what you do after they've done what they needed to do in the house in the first place. Secondly, don't ever ambush your party with 15 fucking zombies, or 15 fucking anything for that matter. All right, action economy alone will kill your players. All right, and on top of that, if you have a player that thinks outside the box and goes, "Hey, I'm willing to use this resource that my class gives me to sense things like undead," if you just bypass and are like, "Oh, well, I was going to run this combat encounter anyway, so I'm just going to tell them that you don't sense anything, never mind the fact that there's 15 undead right below your damn sleeping bag," don't. Just don't. Like, there's no other way I can word that. Don't break. If a player is willing to go out of their way to use something and to think creatively, don't punish them for doing it. Because do you know what that taught us? Do you know what that taught Alvin, our paladin? He said, "I'm just not going to use my divine sense anymore because apparently it doesn't fucking work." Number 3, be careful what you do when it comes to, sessions where you make the party feel as if they have no other option. Now, I understand as DMs, don't get me wrong, I myself, I used to be in the stadium seats of believing that it is not my responsibility to give answers to party members. If my party thinks that the only answer is to kill this kid that's possessed by a demon, then that's on them. Like, that's their choice. I used to be there. But I matured and I wisened up and I realized just how stupid that is. Because here's what happens. Is that at the end of the day, we're not inside your head. Players are not inside the DM's head. We don't have all the information that you do. Even if we would have found that stupid stopwatch, how in the hell would we have ever thought that it was connected to this situation? We wouldn't have. So you made a situation and then locked us in it, physically locked us in it, making it so that the only way out that we could possibly think of was to kill a kid, and then you punished us for doing it after you forced us in the situation to begin with and gave us no alternative. If you're a DM and you are in the school of thought that, hey, whatever my players do, that's on them, I will never assist them, no matter how much they spin their tires, no matter how much they sit there and contemplate and try to come up with creative solutions to whatever I have in front of them, I will give nothing. I will never help them. I will never answer their questions. I will no matter, even if what they come up with is creative, nothing, if it is not exactly the solution I have in mind, it doesn't matter. I'm giving them nothing. Please reconsider that as your standpoint. Because what ends up happening is that after the characters get frustrated, then the player gets frustrated. And once the players feel like none of this is worth it, that none of that this is just turning out to be just an absolute shit show, and we feel like there's no direction, nowhere to go, we have nothing to do, we have no answer from the DM, nothing is helping us, then we just shut down. Even these players who got so invested in this campaign, who wanted so hard to interact and to love where they were, even at that point they were like, this is fucking dumb. You made us do something and then punished us for doing it. And lastly, don't ever make a situation where if a player fails a single ability check, that means death waits them at the other side. Especially when it wasn't even a fail. It was a 14 stealth, if I recall correctly. That's not that bad. And yet for some reason, like, we didn't even get a chance. We didn't even roll initiative. It was literally they got a surprise round. They let loose a cone of cold on a group of party members who I think we were level 3 or maybe 4 at the time. We never saw 5, I know that. So we may have been level 4. Cone of Cold does like 30 something points of damage. That's enough to knock most of us either out or pretty damn near it. And that's exactly what happened. These are the lessons that if you are a DM and you're listening to this, those are the stories you need to take away. Those are the lessons you need to take away. Now, of course, I suppose, now that we've reached the end, the question is okay, well, after all of this shittiness, how did it all end up imploding? What ended up happening? Well, after the Druid thing, after we all got TPK'd at the Wizard of Wines, we were all pretty fed up. And so after the DM left the chat, we all kind of stayed behind. And one of us, I think it was Simon, he said, hey guys, the DM just offered to we could either make a new campaign, we could either play a new campaign, or we can make new characters and try to get re-immersed into this Curse of Strahd module. I'm fine with either. I really don't want to go back into Curse of Strahd. I didn't like how this module was ran. There were some things in it that I didn't care for. I really don't want to play it. And then that was backed up by Alvin and Theodore. And then they, well, what about you, TLC? What do you think? And I said, guys, I love you. I love spending time with you. I've loved what this night has kind of become. I look forward to it throughout the week. I'll be honest. I said, I would love to keep gaming with you, but I cannot keep playing with this DM. I am done. Tonight will be the last night I ever play in this campaign with this DM. I said, and I restated the things that I had figured out between the absolute fudge rolls. There's no way you can lie about it. There's no way you can defend it. And it's why I am such a stringent opponent of fudging rolls ever. I think DMs should show their rolls just as much as any player has to, especially if you're playing online. I said, guys, between the fudging of the rolls, between forcing us into decisions, between making it so that none of our choices mattered, we tried to make a good base camp somewhere, and it didn't matter. We ended up building it on top of a mass grave, even after we made decisions that should have stopped it. I said, I cannot play with this DM. I said, I'm getting pissed. And there's been a couple of sessions that my frustration, my anger became visible. It was easily heard over Discord that we had passed the point where my character isn't the one upset. I am the one upset, and I'm taking it out. And I said, I can't keep playing this. This isn't fun for me anymore. So I'm out. To which point, I believe it was Simon who did it first, who said, I'm glad you said that, because I agree and I feel the same way. I just didn't want to say it because I was, because I wanted to hear what you all thought first. But if you're willing to say it out loud, I'm willing to say it out loud. I too would also not want to play in this campaign. I think we need to find a new DM, which was immediately followed by the other two. And so we did. We literally, I don't know. I think maybe one or two of us may have sent a message to the DM that just said, "Hey, I think we're gonna try to, things just aren't working out. We just can't really seem to get in this module. Things have changed a little bit, and I think we're just gonna kind of keep moving." I did not. I didn't send a reply. I backed out. I disconnected from the server. Left it and and never spoke to that DM again. I never said parting word. Um, but that is how this story, that is how it wraps up, which I do suppose it does end on a good note. Me and Alvin and Theodore and Simon, we are still playing D&D on Wednesday nights now. We have found a DM who, although it is her first time DMing, she's being a rock star at it and kicking ass and seems to be having a lot of fun with it. We are having a lot of fun with it. So I guess we needed a bad experience in order to to really enjoy the one we are in now. But this was it. This was the horror story in a horror story. My 2-part little thing of just how bad a DM can be, and I'm hoping that if you're listening to this, I'm hoping that you whether you find enjoyment at my pain. Or maybe a lesson or two of how not to DM in particular situations. But whatever the case, I hope you liked it. I hope you found it entertaining. I hope there was some takeaway from it. But whatever the case, Curse of Strahd is still a good module. I love it. I love the vibe of it. I think it could have been awesome. But some things just aren't meant to be. Whatever the case, hope you enjoyed, and I will catch you next time.